Good morning, everybody. Got some weird hair going on. I am freezing. It's cold and gray here in Saranda, and yet the sky here is so beautiful. I'm going to post a picture of it. It has something to do with today's message, too. I'll post it in Storehouse Social so you all can see it, and there's some kind of context to it. And so Storehouse Social, for those of you who might be just joining us and don't know what that is, it's our private community for peace talks. So I'd like to invite you to our private gathering space. It's on Mighty Networks, which is a platform that is it helps create communities. And it's not, a traditional social media outlet that, where they have control. So if you're interested, please just reach out to me, send me a message, or email me. I'll put the Storehouse Social. Just email me at connect@mayor.com, and I'll send you the link to join us. So today has been a really nice, quiet day, and it really has to do with the message for today. It wasn't I got the message and then I decided to have a timeout. It was more that's how I was called to be today. And the more I was in a timeout, the more I understood the message. So I want to bring in some evidence of why we are being called to a timeout. I'd like to give you a little bit deeper of a perspective of what we're being called to be and do in this timeout for the next couple of days in between Peace Talks episodes. But first, one thing I haven't done is I haven't thanked those who are helping to support this platform. Usually when I get started on Peace Talks, I'll just remind you that spiritual food is as sustaining and essential to us as eating food, and breathing in the oxygen is sustenance to us. And spiritual food, it comes in the ways of how we are fed spiritually. And my goal and my mission here on Peace Talks is to feed you spiritually, to give you higher perspective and higher intelligence of how we're navigating these crazy times and these times of growth. So I always say, if you are getting spiritually fed, please consider returning that food, that sustenance, by helping to support this platform. Everything here that I do on Peace Talks is donation based, and it fills me to no end to have support coming in. As you know, as you can imagine, it helps me to feel seen and to feel supported in giving of these Peace Talks. But I also wanted to today, I went through and I pulled up those who have donated in the last few weeks. So if you'll just bear with me a moment, I would love to thank these people here on live on this live. So Linda, Carolyn, thank you. Kat, Sarah, Donna, actually Alana, and Samantha and Mary. You all know that how much I appreciate you. I always try to send, not try, I do. I send a personal message, and I always thank you, and I always just return the blessing with knowing that your donations are going to be returned to you. Your generosity will be returned to you, multiplied, expanded, and spilling over. And when I spill over with gratitude at receiving those donations, I want you to receive it back, multiplied and expanded. So thank you all so much for your recent donations. I appreciate it more than you know. And the coolest thing is, this isn't a huge platform. This isn't a big platform in the general sense of spiritual platforms that are out there. And yet these donations come in from all over the world, from Sweden, Canada, obviously the US, New Zealand. There was one from Scotland. So that is the coolest thing to me. Oh, I forgot to, my poor husband. This is usually the time he starts messaging me. But to have those donations come in from all around the world is really awesome, because I know that these messages are getting out and they're doing exactly, I think, what they're meant to do, and that makes a big difference to me. So thank you all so much. Also, before I get into the message, kind of mess here. I did a reading yesterday. It's on my YouTube channel. I also posted it in Storehouse Social for those of you in there. And this reading was really to go deeper into this monthly theme of loving compassion. And it was good. It was, and it now it makes sense to me. The message from that reading is exactly what's kind of taking us into today's message of a time out. So here's the message. I'm going to try. Actually, I'd like to share a little bit of my time out day. First of all, last night, I decided to reach out to my neighbors, and I was kind of just feeling the need and the call to be around people, which, for many of you, if you've been around here, you know that that's not been an exciting thing. And plus, just being on the road, as and traveling as much as we have in this last year and a half, we haven't really kind of like found our group. And Bud and I were very much, since we've been here in Saranda for 11 months, we've been we hermited in. And I think that was really the time that was required for us, for all of us. Like this, there was many people who were saying, like, I'm just hermiting in, whether they use that word or not, but I don't want to go out in the world. And that's how I found the majority of this year has been very much just kind of hunkering down, being on our own, doing our spiritual work. And that spiritual work has felt like a lot of work these past, this whole year really, and into, or going into 2021. We've been purging. We've been being with these energies. We've been learning more about ourselves. We've been ascending into higher expressions of ourselves. We've been working with higher intelligence to understand and have a higher perspective of the world. We've been digesting new versions of ourselves. And all of that sounds really cool when you put it in words. And yet the spiritual work that we have been under in in the last year, 18 months, has been so profoundly challenging. It's been it's weird because it's been expansive, and at the same time it's been challenging, and it has felt like a lot of work. So many of us were just kind of hunkered down, doing the work and doing what we needed to do to keep our physical existence going and our physical worlds going. And it was interesting last night when all of a sudden I was like, I think I'm gonna see what my friends are doing. And some friends of ours here own a bar and restaurant, and so I reached out to my friend Jamie, and she said, actually, Eric and I closed the bar today, and so we had 2 days off. So they're usually off on Thursdays. They close it. And she's like, we just needed a break. And I totally got that. She's like, but we are out. So I met up with them, and y'all, I stayed out till 11:30 at night, which I don't ever do. I'm usually in bed for hours by then. And at one point, our friend Eric left, and it was just me and Jamie and another friend of ours, Anastasia, and she's Russian, and she's an expat here. And so it was kind of like a girls' night out, and I cannot even tell you the last time I've done that. It's been years. And we had, I don't know, y'all. I was so filled with being in conversation, and it wasn't spiritual conversation. It wasn't anything that I would expect, but we just laughed and we cackled. And I had beers, and I haven't done that in a long time. My body hasn't really, wanted to do that. But last night, in the joy and in the company that I was with, I had a couple of beers, And it was just such a filling night. It was such a filling night. And when I got home, my husband, for those of you who know, he headed back to the States, and he has now arrived at my mom's place in Northern California. And he was sharing with me just the drive there, and he shared a video of driving the last couple of miles through the mountains to get to my mom's place. And I was watching that video, y'all, and I have never felt home like just not a longing for home in like I felt a loss at watching it. I was so filled, I think, because I know now he is there, and also seeing the scenery and the mountains and the pine trees. It's everything now that is just calling me forth. And I was so filled. So when I went to bed, like everything was just, my whole being was just lit up. So when I woke up this morning, like I got kind of the words time out, just take a time out. And I went into town, and all of this has to do with the message. So just bear with me as I just kind of tell you that I like to kind of bring the practical terms or the practical experience of these messages. So you understand it's not just like some random message I pull in, but that it's a lot of these messages come in through my experience and being aware and consciously tuning into the moment and being like, what's, what am I understanding in this moment? What am I being shown? What's being revealed to me in this moment? And the other piece to this is that for 2 months, I have not had a debit card here. We were only down to one, and Bud took ours back with him. So I've had no access to money, and I've had challenges with working with Wells Fargo and trying to get a replacement card. One got lost, and thank God for my neighbors, because I would just PayPal them money, and they would give me cash. Other than like, had they not been here, I would have been completely screwed. But I finally got notification today that my card had arrived, and I just had to go down to DHL and get it. So as I was walking down, I was so filled, and I was happy. I felt lighter than I have in a really, really long time. And that feeling was so palpable in me. I was just so grateful, which then just like overflowed me even more. And when I had that debit card in my hand, I just was like, I felt freedom like I have never felt before in my entire life. And as I was walking, I went past this store that I walked past many times, and I always see these beautiful bags, these beautiful little handbags in the window. And I finally just decided, I was just feeling so so light and free, that I stopped in, and I saw the girl sitting at the desk, and I said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I see these bags all the time. I absolutely love them." And she came out, and her face lit up. So she's got this storefront, and these bags are right at the beginning of the store. And then she's just got, clothes and stuff that's just regular, inventory that's easy to see everywhere. But she said, the fact that you love these bags, she said, I'm the designer of them. I sew them by hand. They're hand stitched, they're hand embroidered. And her like just being recognized for these bags, I ended up I got myself one. But this is the bag, this is the one that I chose. But I wanted to show it to you all because as we talked, we were talking about the, creativity. And she said, I don't know. She's like, when someone buys one of these bags, it makes me so happy. And she's like, I'm grateful when people buy, other things in here, but the things that I make, she's like, it makes it so, I get so happy. And I said, that's because you're the creator of it. The things that come to us to create and we make, and then we are seen, and somebody else appreciates our work. And she was like, yes. She like, it blew my mind that she didn't see it, like she didn't understand that, but she said that's exactly what it is. She said, you buying this shows me that you appreciate my work. And we had the most amazing conversation. We ended up hugging it out. I told her I was going back to the States, and she was so excited to know that her bag was going to be in the United States. And she asked me if I would take a picture and tag it, on Instagram once I'm back. But all of that to say, it all comes into this message. And there's something I also want to read, but to give you the message for today, as you know, it seems very logical to say it's time to take a time out. And when I want to bring some depth to that, because I think right now, in these next few days in between, these messages come in for us to follow the energies that we're in. And we commune here 3 times a week to bring our awareness to the energies that we're working with, and to work with those energies until the next message comes in. And again, to remind you, we are in that 40-day, tsunami of energy between the November 11th and December 21st. So there's about 40 days in there that it has, in this cycle. It's an annual cycle. It's always going to bring us a lot of energy, a lot of growth, and a lot of opportunity for us to, when we tune into it and we work with these energies from November to the almost the end of December, we can see a pretty big, expansive jump in our realities if we just stay conscious of this time frame. So having a timeout right now is really essential to us, and here's why. We have experienced quite a lot of growth since November 11th. If you kind of go back, maybe look at pictures or something around that time frame, remind yourself where you were in the beginning of November, and bring yourself to this point. If you do that, I think you will find that you have been in a pretty large growth spurt. And what I mean by that is we've had a lot of energies coming in. Not only that, it's just a wide open portal where it's always a lot of energy. And on top of all of this big, this flood of energy, there's even more coming in, which is creating even like a rise in the flood, so to speak, in the energetic flood. And this is a moment now. What we're being asked to do is simply stop and breathe, come up for some breath. And that comes off of the reading from yesterday was all about loving compassion, going deeper into that, and really, really tuning into how can I just stop for a minute? How can I serve myself? And this isn't, a service to self kind of lower, inverted matrix kind of way. This is a service to self. And how do I just simply, I want to say pamper, but not really. Oh, wow, the clouds are so beautiful. They're all like super pink as the sun goes down. It's more a service to self of filling yourself up right now. And we have been keeping our consciousness on the heaven on earth that we are creating. That's been kind of the flow. This has kind of been the practice from the November 11th portal. When we entered into that, the whole idea is to keep our vision on the higher vision, where we are going, where we are headed, and we're turning away from everything that's been up until now. We're letting everything go. That was part of the message from the reading yesterday as well. So we have been guided to keep our vision on what it is our heaven on earth looks like. We've also been calibrating our inner compasses to our new north, and balancing ourselves out, our magnetic selves out, as the poles shift for us, moving into more of a spiritual way of being. So too is our planetary pole shift happening. So we are the ones that are leading that are causing that, as well as the universal pull to change poles as well. So that's happening within us, and we've been talking about different practices of balancing and calibrating ourselves. And I will tell you, since last week, about 10 days ago, was I think when I did the calibrating the compass episode, I have felt a massive, massive shift in how these energies are affecting me. And that comes in a way that they haven't really been. I haven't felt symptoms. I haven't felt darkness. I haven't gone down deep into into the turmoil of the flood of energy. I've really felt myself on top. I have felt good. I have felt lighter, and it feels as though that experience is expanding, and especially in these last 2 days, it's become very, very noticeable in my awareness that the expansiveness that I'm starting to feel is kind of getting in this past week. Typically we're used to kind of doing the ups and downs. That's how this healing process works. But it has felt very much more peaceful. It has felt very much more balanced, and I do believe it has to do with consciously balancing ourselves to the pole shift, to remagnetizing, to recalibrating ourselves to the poles. So again, I'm going to keep saying this because I think it's, not that I think, I know that there is something to this, and I can feel the effects of it. And the more effects I feel, I'm not going to say the more I do it, because I've been very, very dedicated and committed to doing it every day, doing that practice. And I'm really starting to understand why it's so important. So if you haven't been doing that, you can go back to that episode, Calibrating the Compass, and look at it. The other thing that I have also been doing every single day is the laying eastward and pulling in the vision and creating the Merkaba. I'm not going to go into all of that because I've already done that on a few peace talks. But again, this is keeping my body, my being, my multidimensional being aligned and calibrated with the energy of what I am creating. So here's why we have to have a timeout. Okay, so this is what's happening now. If you have been doing this practice, what I believe now is we are being asked to just simply have a timeout, step back from the work, so to speak, the spiritual work, not for good, but just for the next couple of days, because now we have to allow the energy to that we have created we have to allow our reality to catch up. If you look at the Schumann resonance, I'm going to show it to you. You will notice, okay, I don't know how to get the things up. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm sure that was pretty loud. Sorry, I totally fumbled. You will notice, oh, sorry, y'all, I'm kind of being clumsy, but see these two lines right here? These indicate timeline jumps. So kind of jumps in timelines, which means there's been like and I kind of did this. So if you imagine, this is where you are now, and this is where your heaven on earth is. Okay, this is what I put, the vision of heaven on earth. So typically what we as creators, what we have known up until this point is there is a linear way of getting somewhere. In the past, in the inverted matrix, we figure it out, right? We logically figure it out. But what this whole ascension journey is into a higher reality is creating through energy. And when we focus, when we put our attention and our spiritual work on the vision energetically, we go from where we are, and when we put focused amounts of work, which I know that we've been doing, I have been doing in this last week, especially with calibrating the compass and doing the eastward facing the Merkaba energetics. What's happening now is that is creating these jumps. So what's happening in these timeline jumps that we're even seeing on the Schumann, we are creating a wormhole almost. So it's shortening the time. And what is happening is it's taking out the logical jump, or it's taking out the logical steps in between, so that we can have what is creative materialization of our visions coming into our reality almost as if by magic in a synchronistic way. And when we start to learn to use energy for the materialization of everything that we want to create in a service to others way, which means what's good for us, what we create for us in our heaven on earth. Priya, can you stop licking, please? Hey, stop. Sorry, she's just sitting there looking at me. She knows how to piss me off. She'll just sit there and just lick. So when we create in the highest good for ourselves and also in the highest good for all, and we are learning now to generate this energy, we will go through times where we have to take a time out to allow all of it to materialize. And that's what's creating this wormhole, and it's creating a timeline jump for us. And while these next 2 days occur, we are being asked to just stop and breathe for a second. Stop and breathe. And this is where we pay attention to our ego mind, because the ego mind is no doubt being pesky at times, of being like, well, how is this going to work? How do we figure out how to go from where we are to creating that heaven on earth? But these timeouts is when we just simply allow the energy to do its work. I want to read something to you because I actually just saw it right before getting on here. This is a post by a gentleman. I went to a writing workshop of his. It feels like a million years ago in LA. His name's William Whitecloud, and he's an amazing, he does amazing work. But here was his, you didn't see that. Here is his post. It says, the most creative person in the room will always be the one who can hold sight of the end result above the tension of how it will happen. Okay. So I'm going to read then what he wrote underneath that post. Here's what he says. The most creative person in the room will always be the one, I'm rereading it, who can hold sight of the end result above the tension of how it will happen. The more we are one with the outcome we seek, the more the inner and outer forces that make it possible align. The more stuck we are on how it will happen, the more our beliefs of limitation and separation come into play. One of the major misconceptions we are societally enrolled in is the mechanical nature of existence, and that process is the primary consideration in life. To the one who can break free of that illusion, the door to magic has been opened. This time out is for us to build faith in the magic of creation, of the materialization of our creative energies. So we are just simply asked to step back. And if you look at the reading, if you watch the reading from yesterday, all it's about, not all of it, but there's a part of it that's all about finding the things that fill you with joy, finding the things that you're curious about and spending time in those. That's the call for this next month. That is the call for the last part of this energy tsunami, is to take a time out and only be in the activities that keep us in a resonant field of our vision, the same resonance that you get running through you when you spend time meditating on and being in the vision of the vision of what you're creating, of what your heaven on earth is. The more time you spend in that higher vibrational frequency, the more the energy takes care of itself. You become that the electromagnetic field, and the things and the people and the circumstances required to create that in physical reality just come as if by magic, as in synchronicities, as in coincidences. And what he is saying here is one of the major misconceptions of this inverted matrix that we have always been in so far, we are societally enrolled in, is the mechanical nature of existence. We have to turn our backs now to the mechanical nature, meaning making it happen, figuring it out. That is no longer the operating system that we are in. We are in the operating system that we spend enough time generating that Merkaba of energy around our heaven on earth, around the visions, around the insights that are now no doubt coming through your supernal channel, and spending time with those, hopefully laying eastward. I know it sounds, illogical, but that if it sounds illogical and you're like, why do I have to lay eastward? Read the Emerald Tablets. Look at that Calibrating the Compass episode that I did. I explain a little bit in there. There is a reason for it. And it's how we start to create the magical energy. And as we are doing that in this time frame of this tsunami of energy, and then getting these influxes, we got 2 solar flares today. We have coronal holes that are facing Earth now. So solar winds means that we are getting more of an influx of data, of light, of more knowledge that's flooding in. And as long as you are clear and in those higher perspectives of frequency, all of that new light, along with the tsunami of this cycle that happens every year, it is all being organized now. And our job is to chill out for these next couple of weeks, yes, but we're going to experiment with this for these next couple of days in just being in what would my heart love to be or do or experience right now, and following that, because that is how we turn away from the mechanical nature of our mind to want to figure out how to create the solution to the vision. And we ride the timeline shift. We ride the timeline shift and allow time to collapse and take us from where we are now to the vision as if by magic. There is something very deep and very essential and very important about taking a time out from all of the logical things. Now, the other piece is there's a lot of distraction this time of year, right? We're running around. This has been the time frame that we have been programmed to be busy, to be trying to stay in societal norms of the holidays and everything that goes into the holidays and all the responsibilities and all of the obligations. If any of that does not align and resonate with the higher consciousness of you staying in the higher consciousness of you creating your vision of heaven on earth, this is where you, sweet soul, have to choose to let some of these societal obligations go and not participate in the distractions that have been deliberately programmed in us to take us away from tuning into the spiritual nature of this time in our linear year. We have been deliberately programmed to be busy at this time so that we are feeding the inverted matrix, the physical nature of our lives, rather than the opposite of the spiritual vision of what we are creating. So that pole shift that we have been tuning into, that we have been calibrating to, is part of all of this. When we do that, we are now focused in, aware of the spiritual nature of the energetics of right now. And when you and I and all of us just simply keep our focus on that by taking a time out from all of the distractions and only keeping our frequency at a higher frequency above the fray of all of the chaos underneath the tsunami of, the wave, we keep surfing on top through these next couple of weeks, we will collapse time, and our atmosphere is showing us that that possibility is in existence. This is when we just stop and tune out of everything else and tune into us, into our own being, into our multidimensional selves, tuning into our visions, being aware of the insights coming in, because the insights coming in is how we are collapsing time. As you get an insight, as you get a new direction, a new message, and you follow that, that is how time is going to collapse and create these synchronicities. I hope you're getting this. But if you're not, just know that the I am presence of me that has received this message, who understands it, and my brain and my mind, we talked about this the other day, they will catch up, and the understanding, the logical understanding will come. But for now, your I am presence has heard this. It has awakened something with this message, has awakened something within you, so that now you will be paying attention more, and anything that doesn't resonate with the higher realms of your heaven on earth that are starting to organize, it will be hard, it will be challenging to even participate. So that's a good thing. You've now been activated with what the call is, what we are being called to do on in the spiritual realms. It's been activated in all of us. So we will just naturally flow and turn and look for the awareness of what's going to fill my heart in this moment. What is going to expand my electromagnetic field? And you will most likely just gravitate to that kind of stuff when everybody else is going to be gravitating to the distractions. You are not going to be able to do it as easily anymore. We have always been able to be like, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. But that has kind of been shed throughout this year. We are cleansed and we are purified more than ever. So just pay attention to where you are led and follow it, because creation is happening, a wormhole is taking effect, and the timelines are shifting, and we just need to allow our realities to catch up. And as long as we stay in those higher resonances, I believe we will start to see more ease and more flow showing up, synchronicities and coincidences happening. That is the message for today. Let's see what you guys said. Hi, good morning. Woohoo, grateful you had a break last night. I know, it was so fun. Beautiful handbag. Is she online? She's not. She's not online. I'm going to go back down. I told her I'd come back down and see her because we had such a great conversation. I was like, next time I come back downtown, I will. I was thinking about, I would love to purchase a few of these and bring them back. Sandy says, I have been having a lot or ringing in my ears. Are my angels trying to speak? Yes. Ringing in the ears is definitely, sometimes, especially the days where the ringing is, I don't want to say louder, but louder or more prevalent, I will do a meditation and just tune into those, because the ringing in the ears is a frequency. You're now being able to tune into a higher frequency than ever before. And those frequencies also have packets of light. They bring in data. So on those days where I'm like, wow, my ears are like, there's I don't want to call it noise, because it's not noise to me. It's a beautiful tone. These tones, right? Tonal. What's that movie? Was it Space Odyssey? Oh, what was that movie, y'all? I think it was like in the 80s, maybe, where the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they come in like boop boop beep boop. They, higher intelligence comes in tones, in sounds. So that is, tuning forks and sound bowls, that they all have a resonance and a frequency. So too does the tones of these frequencies that we're calling ears ringing. When you just simply sit, even if it's for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, just tune in to that frequency, because just by bringing your awareness to that frequency, you're pulling in the codes, the tonal codes into your being to then be revealed in insights and in wisdom. So that, yeah, so that's a good thing when you start hearing it. And the other thing too, I'll share this. The other night, it was really interesting. I was cooking some dinner, and all of a sudden my right ear just went wee, like it I know it's a weird sound, but it was such a, a change in the frequency of just my right ear. So how I know I have unaware of this. I'm not saying this is how it is for you, but when I hear more of a tone in my left ear, I know it pertains, and it's a call to be aware of my physical world. There's something in my physical reality to pay attention to. On the right side, it's spiritual communication. So the fact that like all of a sudden this volume turned up in my right ear, and the two dogs were standing next to me, because they always stand next to me waiting for something to fall on the floor while I cook. They both at the same time, because I was like, whoa, like, and I literally stopped. I was like, what are y'all trying to tell me? Like what's the message? And they both started shaking their heads, and Priya was kind of like running, not in circles. She was like pacing a little bit and shaking their head. So I know there was some kind of frequency in that moment that came in. And shortly, a day or two, or maybe it was 3 days later, I can't quite remember, I got just a huge download of my heaven on earth, like a huge vision of it. And as soon as I was getting those visions, I was like, that's what that tone was. It was the data. It was the data of the remembrance of it. And I know this sounds, if you're just coming into this conversation, or you're not sure about the spiritual conversation yet, this could feel very out there. And at the same time, the higher we come into the intelligence of how the spiritual communication works, the more we start to become aware of the different tones of the elements. I talked about the elements on the reading yesterday as well, and working with the elements. So all of that is very much something to pay attention to. So pay attention to the ringing of the ears. It's got data. I have been feeling a shift since starting compass calibration, for sure. Feeling connected and well, observing without attachment, balancing. Yeah, Kat, I'm glad you said that. It's so funny because we can, our mind always wants to question, be like, well, it's just coincidence. But I'm like, isn't that what we're talking about? Creating coincidences. There is no coincidence. Literally, for the last week, every single day doing that calibrating to the compass, I have felt more balanced, in emotional and mental balance. The dips, I've had no dips, no dips where it's felt like work, right? I've just been, this has been my little, my way of being. And so my mind wants to be like, well, it's just, it's just coincidence. However, that practice came from the Emerald Tablets. That is a sacred text there's really no, we don't really know when and how long, like when it was written. But that said, there is something to the wisdom in the Emerald Tablets. And when I read that, I just knew, like, as I was reading that, I've mentioned already, those Emerald Tablets are extremely activating, and I trust. And there's a couple words that they give in the Emerald Tablets. I've been meditating on those words, and I'm telling you, something has completely shifted in me. So, Kat, I hear you, and I echo that as well. There has been some kind of balance since starting to calibrate consciously, with awareness, calibrating to the poles and doing that eastward facing Merkaba. It doesn't mention the Merkaba in the Emerald Tablets, but that's how I understand that practice of facing eastward and pulling in the solar plexus energy into the vision, and then anchoring into both poles. There's something to it, and I'm continuing to practice it because I feel the shift. I feel it. And now what I'm understanding is this timeout is being called to just simply breathe and allow the energy to do the work. So that's kind of exciting. just got here. It's moving day for us. Oh, exciting. And all of it all at the same time. We will send you lots of energy, Jessica, for sure. My I am presence is with your I am presence to keep the move calm and joyful and everything and safe as well. You are protected. Sandy says it's been happening a lot, sometimes in my left ear, and it's alarming. Interesting. Alarming is an interesting word. You know, what comes up for me in that is when it is alarming, tune in to where are your thoughts, where are you in your reality, what might be a reflection of something that these tones are pointing your attention to, what's alarming in your environment that might need to be addressed or focused on. So that word's an interesting word to me. It jumps out at me. Thanks so much. So eventually I will understand later what is being said. Yeah. That's that's what we have to remember is like energy comes in and we don't always understand it. Sometimes I could feel it coming in, those, like when I talked about having that migraine the other day. Let me take a sip of my little Italian soda. Oh, it matches my little wrap. When I was talking about, there was such a flood of energy coming in that night that I could feel the pressure, and I was kind of working through it, like trying to stay out of the fear of it going into a migraine. Here's what I know: when we feel energies, we hear new tones, we have these influxes, we're going to be getting more and more energy because those coronal holes, the solar winds, take about 3 days to get to us. So these coronal mass ejections that happen, that are earth facing, it'll take 3 days to get to us. So over the weekend, we'll be getting even more energies coming in. And as they come in, our job is just to ground them, breathe them down into our Earth Star chakra of the new Earth, the higher frequency of the expression that we're creating. Ground them down. Once they are grounded and we have embodied these energies that come in, now they are in our being. They are in our mental strata, our emotional strata, and they are in our physical being. They're and when it comes into the physical being, it opens up a new, I don't want to say layer, but like a new packet of light out of our DNA. The DNA then releases those new codes, that new data into our cells, into our body, into our brains, and then all of a sudden we will start getting new insights. So that's what I'm talking about. Like we'll start to get new ideas, new visions. I don't know how it comes for you. I'm pretty in tune to it now, but yes, you will start to get a flood of new data that you'll become aware of, and this data will be the part of the how that usually the mind wants to figure out. But remember, the mind is trying to figure out how to get you from where you are now to your vision by what it already knows. But what it already knows has been past experiences. That's why we got to turn away from that, allow these energies to come in, embody them, and then as we get a new insight, and it might be search this, or you hear a message on Peace Talks that you're like, oh, I get that. And all of a sudden, all of these new insights, these coincidental pieces of knowledge that just run through your awareness, that's how the coincidences, that's how the wormhole, the timeline swap is happening. The hop is happening. Hope this makes sense. It makes sense in my, what I'm saying, but again, translating energy into words is so is hard. Sandy says, I'm in my journey to spiritual life. Yes, we all are. All of us are. We are still learning so much about, and that we're going to be. Remember, we have lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of inverted in operating in the inverted matrix. This isn't just like a current event kind of thing or a current modern day thing. This has been deliberately programmed into us for millennia. So we are now relearning how to operate from the spiritual world from the spiritual sense of us. So yes, this is something that's going to take us, I don't want to say time, but we are being accelerated in our learning. We are being, these energies now, like this time of ascension, us being here in human form during this this point in time in a 26,000 year cycle. There's no coincidence to that. So we are being elevated so quickly to accelerate our learning in this. And that is why we're being, the emerald texts are just now are coming into our awareness. These processes, these practices are now becoming, through these messages, are now becoming our way of life, our way of creation. So we are really, we're all in this whole process together. So turn away from everything you've ever known, doing it that way, and open up to all of the weird ways. And wouldn't it be great? Because I believe this is the truth. But until we know and have all of the evidence, wouldn't it be great to simply be able to create our worlds through energy alone? And then the only work we have to do is follow the insights that come in, because those insights are a direct path to our soul destiny, to our heaven on earth. So instead of having to do all the work that the mind would take us on to figure it out and to create it and the way it thinks, we just create the energy by doing these weird practices of calibrating to the poles, facing eastward, generating a lot of, generating energy, and then pulling in the energy. And just through awareness alone, we follow the steps, the guidance of that. And that just collapses time. It collapses the time in which it takes for us to manifest. Wouldn't that be great? I think it is. And I'm practicing with that because I'd rather it be that way. And I believe that is the spiritual truth. And I believe that's what we are being guided to learn. And that's what we are being trained to do and to be on these peace talks as a community. We are being asked to be the experimenters, to be the pioneers of a new way of creating life. I'm all about that because I've already done it over here, and that was shit. Like, it wasn't shit, but it felt like shit. I didn't feel inspired a lot of times. I had to create inspiration through creative stuff, and I was very dedicated to that. But I know most humans aren't. And if we could shift it from that to just simply creating, mostly in mind, and then the doing part is just what we are guided to do, and what we're guided to do is that in which enlivens our heart and expands our heart. Doesn't that sound a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable of a way of creating life? It does to me. So I'm willing to experiment. And I think that's what, this Peace Talks is meant to be, is to have these messages come, through me, and me experiment and share what I'm experimenting with. And if it feels true and resonates with you, you all try it. Now we've actually got a practice group on creating something pretty magical together. So that's how I see these peace talks. That's how I see it for myself. And I'm willing to experiment with a new way of living life. So thank you all so much for being here. I so appreciate, again, the donations. I'm super grateful. If you have it in you to return the energy that you receive from here, I'm so grateful to accept donations for Peace Talks. And at the very least, just like this Peace Talks. And again, don't hesitate to come over, reach out to me, and come over to Storehouse Social. I would love to meet you more in, more of an intimate setting, and really start to establish relationships between us. So thanks you all for being here. Love you so much. We'll see you on the next Peace Talks. Mwah. Have a good one. Bye.